This video is now in session, and happy Halloween to everyone. Today we are looking at New Jersey's governor's election, and it is closer than initially thought. So if we look at the 2017 New Jersey gubernatorial election, what we see here is that Phil Murphy, a progressive, won by 14.1 percentage points. That's a pretty big gain from 2013, where we saw Chris Christie win by 12 percentage points. So this is a shift during Donald Trump's presidency. But now we are in Joe Biden's presidency, who is a Democrat, and what we're seeing is that a lot of things that the Democrats want to do are not getting done. So for Phil Murphy, he is facing a much tighter election than the last election, and even though it's still not really that big of an election because Phil Murphy is in such a Democratic state, what we're seeing is that his polls, or the polls that are being conducted between Phil Murphy and Jack Ciattarelli, it's closer than the last election, and it's closer than the election of 2020, where we saw Biden win New Jersey by a safe margin. What we're seeing here in these polls is that by Stockton University, which is a university in New Jersey, Murphy is ahead by 9%. Monmouth University, also a university in New Jersey, also a good pollster. Murphy is up by 11%. Emerson College, Murphy is up by only 4%. So it's somewhat concerning to Phil Murphy that his ratings, or I guess his polls, are going down with just a couple of days left until the election. Just last week, or not last week, but just 1 month ago, what we saw was that Murphy was ahead by double digits, by 13, 12, 11, 19, 16%. But now what we're seeing is that lead is going down to 9%. That is going down all the way to 4%. And that's not a good indication for the Democratic Party, because if in a state like New Jersey there is a viability for Phil Murphy to only win by a lean margin, it shows and it indicates that the Democrats need to rethink their strategy. That first of all, that they need to get the infrastructure bill and the budget bill passed in the House and in the Senate. But it also shows that for the Democrats, they need to focus a little bit less on progressive measures and focus more, somewhat similar to kind of the policies of the New Democrats, which is more economic gains. And that also means less inflation, so lowering the inflation, and then also resolving a lot of the economic issues that are going on, and then maybe curbing some of the social issues for a little bit later on. Because the main issue for the Democrats right now is that COVID is still happening. People are getting less worried about COVID, meaning that people don't care as much about this issue, and people are starting to turn away from Donald Trump, as in people are starting to not pay as much attention to Donald Trump compared to previous months. If we look at New Jersey, I'm from the New York City area, so I have a lot of friends in New Jersey, and basically what a lot of them have said is that Phil Murphy's policies of taxation don't really suit them, even though that they're Democrats. And if we look at other aspects like education, for New Jersey's, I guess, main reason why a lot of people go to New Jersey is because of education, and education in New Jersey has gone down in quality with more development and less funding. And then what we also see is that Trump is not much of an issue in this election. The Republicans, the kind of cultural Republicans that are an issue in the national elections, are not an issue in this election, because Jack Ciattarelli has already affirmed himself as more of a moderate Republican, and as a Republican who doesn't really focus as much on Trump, because Ciattarelli campaigned in the Republican primary not on Trump, but rather on taxation, while his opposition, which was Hirsch Sin in the Republican primary, campaigned on Trump-style politics, and He Sing lost. He actually got third place, not even second place. So for Jack Ciattarelli, he's more the moderate candidate. The fact that he won indicates that New Jersey doesn't really care as much about Trump as they did in 2020 or 2016, and that is an issue that the Democrats will face in 2022. Currently, they're trying to campaign on the idea that the Republicans are a dangerous group that cannot be elected, but there are two fundamental errors to that kind of argument. First, in the 2016 election, what we saw is that the Democrats made the same kind of argument, which is that Trump and the Republican Party are being dangerous to the American society, and as a result, you shouldn't vote for them. But nonetheless, Republicans and I guess America voted for the Republicans in the House, the Senate, and the presidency in the 2016 election, as well as numerous state legislatures. And then what we saw in 2020 was that that the Democrats campaigned mainly against Trump, and that did work, but it didn't go as far as many people expected, because most people were worried about day-to-day issues. They weren't worried about Donald Trump. Or at least a lot of them were, but like it was not their priority, and it will be less of a priority in 2022, because Donald Trump really is only tampering, or rather, he's only going into American politics at this current moment through the perspective of an outsider lobbyist, because he is kind of changing the Republican primaries, but he isn't really he isn't commanding the discourse on what is argued and what is debated in the 2022 elections. So that's pretty evident in this race. It's evident in Virginia's race, which we will talk about tomorrow, especially since Glenn Youngkin, the Republican opposition, has for the first time kind of toppled Terry McAuliffe as the leader, according to the average of the polls. So that's the two races at hand. Phil Murphy will still likely win this election, but if he wins this election by a lean margin, that's really bad for the Democrats. If he wins by a likely margin but less than double digits, then the Democrats should still worry a little bit, but they should worry more on turnout rather than their policies. If it's lean, then they definitely should be worried about their policies. And then if we talk about likelies that are double digit past 10-11%, then the Democrats again should still worry, because it's not 15% like it was in the last election. But what they can do is that they can mainly try to do a get out the vote campaign. But obviously we'll have to see all of this occur in the 2021 election, which will be happening in just 2 days from now. And also, don't worry, Partisan Satire, this YouTube channel, is back. We will be making videos again. Whether it's on a daily basis, that's not quite sure as of now, but basically we have a lot of work to do. We do also have an Instagram account, though, and we have continuously made posts every single Friday. So if you want to follow that, it's Partisan Satire on Instagram. I don't really like plugging stuff, but yeah. So that's the New Jersey's governor's race. We're going to do a prediction of both of these races, New Jersey and Virginia, on Tuesday, November 2nd, when the election is happening. And we'll also talk a little bit more about New Jersey's state senate and assembly elections, because these have competitive seats, like New Jersey's 16th legislative district, New Jersey's 39th legislative district, New Jersey's 11th, and as well as New Jersey's 7th legislative districts. These are all competitive districts that could be decided by very tight margins. So we'll have to see that, especially New Jersey's 11th district, where Van Gopal, who is the incumbent, is very powerful, and he has the potential to get toppled in the 2021 Senate election. So we'll talk more about that in, I guess, the prediction video, but until then, this video is now adjourned. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.